Hello, and welcome to Diana's Makerspace for this August 18th, 2025. I'd like to show you an update on the Barbie house and some of my thoughts on AI. Now, this is the Barbie house. Today, I added the stairway for the dormer like that, so you can walk up. It's like a Fillmore stair, and that though. And you can see Henry sleeping because I forgot to put Henry to bed last night, so he's resting up. Join everyone else a little bit later. And there's the Barbies in the living room on the second floor, because at our old house, we had our family living area on the second floor, very much like a European style design. And on the third floor, we had a special visiting area for guests, again, like a very European type design. Even though we live in Kenosha, we lived in Kenosha. You can see some of the beds there. And then, oops, I forgot. Oh, I got to wait. Henry's resting too because I forgot to. So what happens is I forgot Henry. And there's Jennifer and Dole. And as you can see, the Barbie car is progressing. I got the wheels. I'm just waiting for the axle and some other things to complete it. And I'll show you when it's complete. I'm just waiting for the axle, but I got the wheels and just to make the axle assembly. And now you can see Karen and Pingy in their bedroom and how I have everything set up. Now the other thing what I did is I rearranged a few things just to sort of pan a little bit. You can sort of see how I move my bed into the living room, make a bigger space. And also I like a lot of dairy. And then you can see I updated my craft space. I have one singer here, a little project that I'm working on. This is a chip calculator where basically you can run it off a 9-volt battery and you can program the first bank of RAM to light a bootloader in that, and then you use the keys here, just type it in, then you switch between read mode, write mode, and then you decide which one you're going to write into, and then what happens, you push this button to load the latches, and this other button up here to load the memory. And then the status display right here shows what's on the latches and in the memory. And this is a new addition. This is a 2-sided copier printer that I bought from HP on their budget plan. It's $25 a month. They include ink with it. So basically I never have to worry about running out of ink, which is a nice thing. It does 2-sided color printing. Also I can do fabric printing and do some of my fashion design by ion transfers. Other HPs you can print directly on fabric, but this one you need ion transfers. So this is wonderful for me. This has helped out quite a bit, and also helping friends out with their paperwork sometimes. And then just going back into the original, I updated it, so I made a monitor. I don't have the laptop on this because I'm doing some house cleaning and other stuff today, but you can see how it looks there. And then as we move on into the bedroom that I made into a craft room, you can see basically I put a shelf underneath to keep the laptops. Again, the laptops are put away because I'm doing some housekeeping today. And you can see my inspiration wall. And then two monitors I could use to do either one. The one monitor closest to you is also a TV, so I can watch Netflix. And also I can flip it. And then I have the other thing inside here. This is set up with a Luffer foot. So basically in gather foot, so I can do gathered sewing. There's one printer, and then this is the older printer over here. And you can see also several layout tables so I can do stuff. A little ottoman, so basically I can stretch out. A TV that's actually connected to the antenna so I can watch TV. This TV allows me to watch some other programs that are blocked on my other TV. It's interesting that you can watch some things, but you can't watch another due to events that happened a few years ago. But then this is what I did. I made my two petticoat dolls, 2 pillows side by side, with different types of petticoats. And then so my utility drawer. some of my fashion books, and some of my other reference books, and then some other things I made here. Um, this is sort of like a bowl. This is a bowl. This is a scarf. A scarf. So you can put this on your hand like this, and like that, and going back to the Barbie house. You can see what it looks like. How you have the first floor, then the dorm we can use as a study nook. I'm actually going to make a mattress out of oatmeal, filled with oatmeal this time with fabric, and so basically, and I'm going to use an area underneath as like an office, or like a little creative nook. Now, let me continue on with my thoughts on AI. Now, my thoughts on AI. First thing, there's been some noted researchers who said in the past that basically, based upon the AI, people have asked him and others what to do in regards to AI, and the flippant answer has been, well, become a plumber. Well, I talked with my friend about that, and I remember something that Douglas Adams wrote about it, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And that basically what he said was this was about where they went to the planet Omega something where they were going to make a second Earth to complete the program of life, the universe, and everything. Well, what happened was they landed on this planet, and what happened, Ford says, well, God, this planet is, are you sure there's no one on this planet? How can planet become, and basically, no, Arthur said, well, this planet, how are you sure there can't be anyone on this planet? And Ford said, no, Arthur, the only people on here are nil plus us. And in European nomenclature, nil means zero. Compared whereas Americans would say zero plus us or just us, but in English it's nil plus us. Just like how in England they say math for short version of mathematics. So that makes sense. Mathematics, math, but we say math. So we say math. We consider math in the singular. English consider math in the plural, and that though. So when they went there, what happened was basically Arthur met Sarda Gatfast, and who's showing how he's going to rebuild the Earth, and he's going to add fjords in Africa as instead of in Norway as he did in the first Earth project. Well, Arthur asked, he said, well, how come the planet's so desolate? Why is it just you guys that just sort of slumbered and waited for the recession to come past and then awake when the mice asked you to make a second planet? Well, he said, well, one time we were a very prosperous planet. We were very good in business. We did this and this. However, we over optimized on business. He says, well, what do you mean? Well, at one point, basically, everyone discovered that basically it's far more efficient if you could fly rather than walk to your business appointment. So our scientists developed something where everyone could develop wings. So what happened was basically people developed wings, and what happened was because the planet was so business oriented, everyone liked shoes. So the market oversaturated on shoes. But then basically when the shoe business fell, there are too many shoemakers and too many shoe sellers, a complete clash. It's like too many plumbers. If you have too many plumbers, boom. Or they say, well, go into gig work. Well, gig work is getting crowded too. Uber and DoorDash and other things. Because when I go to Wendy's, I see a lot of people working DoorDash, Wendy's, and everything. So far, it's going good in my area we've seen, but basically, if it starts to get crowded, everything will get crowded. But the thing is, what I say about AI, though, it's important basically not to be so narrow-minded, because when I look at my old alma mater, UW Parkside, and even my graduate alma mater, I'm concerned about how narrow-minded the focus has become, forcing people in IT doing JSON, or Android. Well, now when I started basically at, I started my studies in computer science about 1982, but I actually started my college studies in 1978 when I was in ninth grade in junior high school. I was the basis for College for Kids. Um, what happened was basically at that time when I went to Parkside, it wasn't this narrow-mindedness of JSON, 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 Android. What it was actually more like a traditional it's like an EECS program that, or a computer science program that you see at different colleges like Washington, University of Washington, and some others, and maybe Stanford like that though. But it was more broader. It was basically included liberal arts, so you have breadth of knowledge. So the idea was that basically it's in a way it's like Steve Jobs, like this, where he went to elite college, he went alone and figured out what to do, and then he learned soldering and other stuff, and that's how Parkside was. And basically, and the reason why is because even at that time, computer science could not. They knew computer science a degree could not stand alone by itself without something else. It's like some other degrees they can't stand alone. But even more so today. So what would I say to someone who's a college graduate and wants to know something? First, learn one specific language well. Like for us, basically, we actually had the basic four. We had basic, Fortran, assembly, and Pascal. Also PL1 and COBOL, so six if you're in business. But basically, I sort of learned basic assembly, Fortran, and added Pascal as well as COBOL. My dad was a wonderful PL1 program, taught me some stuff, but actually, I focused more on PL1, not PL, on Pascal and assembly like that though. But the thing is, the reason why now Pascal's become Lazarus in Delphi, but the reason why I say learn one language well is because what happens, the learning of that one language well will help you learn other languages. And in my career, I've learned 250 computer languages, but I still refer back to those days of how I learned Pascal and how I learned Lazarus and Delphi. Pascal was console-based programming. Lazarus and Delphi is basically Windows GUI programming in that though. Also the newer type of programming. But the thing is, just don't focus on that because, like in COVID, what I did was I took up sewing. Again, I bought two singers. I bought one singer, took up another. And what happens, that helps me to do some gig work because basically I have friends that come and sometimes they say, well, look, can you help me with this? Can you fix this, fix that? $5 here, $10 there. That helps. And I don't have to leave my house. Excuse me. But the other thing, though, is also learn something else, like podcasting and other things. But the thing is, learn some. Don't be so don't be so narrowly focused. Expand out a little bit because the problem is the job you do today is going to change, and you're going to have to learn to do 5 other different jobs. I mean, when I started, I originally was in pre-med. I was planning to go to medical school, and then I moved into medical research. And then from medical research, became a civilian military contractor when the first Gulf War came out. As our field, our department was tasked with solving bloodborne diseases during the first Gulf War. And then later, basically, I moved into being a computer tech executive at the Society for Computer Simulation. And at one point, basically, when there was a political change in Washington, I did another turnaround again and became an entrepreneur and consultant. And that's where I went to complete my business degree, first getting my MBA, then later my doctoral in management organizational behavior. However, but even when I went for my MBA, the emphasis was not just on study in this thing. It was actually applications. Some people call it learning while you earn while you learn, but it's also learning how to expand your degree in other ways, expand outward. It's not a closed pie. What happens, you can make other pies. And what happens, you can make the pie bigger, but it's better to make other pies too, and bridges. So when someone says, well, with AI, everyone should learn a trade and become a plumber. Well, I don't agree with everyone becoming a plumber, but I do agree that everyone should become multifaceted. And even learning a trade, because what I do as a hobby, let me show you again. What I do as a hobby is I do the Barbie house. I make Barbie clothes. Let me just show you that down here a little bit. Um, I make Barbie clothes. You can see some skirts, some pants, some dresses. And also I buy stuff from AliExpress. Wonderful stuff. They have good craftsmanship, like the shorts from AliExpress are wonderful. These shorts I made, the skirts I made these, the shorts and pants here, and these tops I bought from AliExpress as well. I'm actually going to make another outfit for Karen because that's one outfit. And Karen's wearing a summer outfit because in my apartment's rather hot. I don't have air conditioning. However, though, when someone says, no, everyone should become a plumber and everyone should do this or do that. Well, take a trade. Yes, become multifaceted, but don't all go like a bunch of lemmings, like the Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy, where everyone goes into a certain field, like they mentioned, like making shoes, and then when the bomb falls out, it's like a great tulip panic. The tulip is so high, then basically boom. And also when you do a trade, when you do something, make sure you have the right tools. Like, see, I have a singer, I have a little music station. This new HP I'm going to use to do fabric printing like that, though, and stuff. Also, I have my fashion reference books below, some other stuff, a little work box. But pick an area. And this table here is actually a dorm table that I bought from Temu. It's actually meant to be used in a dorm room, but I'm using it as part of the crafting area. So think about what you're doing, and also make inspiration to keep you going. And lastly, to some of these people say, well, AI will allow people to do more than other things. Yes, and I've been observing the buildathon, which I think is great. They're trying to see what you can build an AI in a day like that. That's wonderful concept to marketing to sales like that. And I sort of watched about 2.5 hours of it. I'm gonna watch more of it, and I'll comment that in other videos. I think that's a great idea. But one thing I noticed when I used one AI program last night, I was testing a thing about having like a front end, a web front end, so they could run Lazarus programs on the web like that. They'll send my Lazarus programs on, and it loaded up, and it calculated, it did everything and wrote the code. But then it came with a cost, like 66 cents or something else. And well, see, what happens is basically AI is supposed to reduce the cost needed to make a program and maintain a program too. But basically, in some ways, it's like the old time sharing where basically you paid so much for the punch cards, and that though, and the companies made money by the punch cards. But the concern that I have though is basically, if the emphasis is to de-emphasize traditional programming where people don't even have a solid knowledge in one programming language, and then we're going to rely completely on AI, which some people refer to as having the level of a junior engineer, which I'm concerned about that terminology and the definition that they're using in that, though, because I don't think it's even up to that point yet. But it's still enough to cause dislocation of people and loss of jobs. But the thing is, if you have people that don't have a solid background program, you have an AI write a program, and there's an error, and you're hoping for the AI to solve a program, oh boy, good luck. Not everything can be solved, because let me give you a common example we face today. For example, when many people have a problem with the service, they'll call up technical support. Hello, I have a problem with my phone service. And the person at the other end is very knowledgeable and everything else. However, the person you're speaking to, you may not be able to understand them, and they may not be able to understand you. Or even if they understand you, you may not be able to understand them, because, for example, like when I speak, sometimes I have to insist upon American technical support, because the problem I run into, even though I know many languages and can speak German and read and write in different languages, German, French, Polish, Russian, Italian, Spanish, Dutch, and I'm trying to teach myself Mandarin. Um, the problem is I'm much older. I'm not in my 40s anymore, and also my health issues are such that basically, when someone speaks too fast without pause, like, well, thank you for calling. Well, if you do this and this and this and this and then that, I need a pause. I'm not used to having things shot rapid fire in agglutinated languages, and even though it's English and they're doing the best to speak American, but when it's said and agglutinated without a significant pause, I have trouble understanding because basically it all just meshes into everything, and it's like well, I said, and I have to say, well, so you're saying we should do this, and I can tell the person at the other line is a little bit upset because I'm speaking slowly compared to the way someone in the back office or foreign countries tell them faster, faster, faster. We need to complete this call in so many minutes. And that's what the problem is going to be with an AI because the AI is you may think the AI understands what you're trying to say, and the AI may think you may understand what you're trying to say, but again, it's like the story of the elephants. Five blind people look at an elephant. One person thinks the trunk is a tree branch. The other one thinks the main body of the elephant is a wall. The other one thinks the tail of the elephant is a vine. Um, the other one thinks the leg of the elephant is a tree. And that's where if we overly rely on AI and we don't have enough qualified people and even a minimal staff of people, because even in science fiction series, I've been watching this Extant, and it talked about where they showed someone on a space station in the future, and it has an AI named Ben, and very capable AI compared to the AIs of today, very good. But like with electronics and technology, stuff happens that we can't plan for everything. Stuff happens that we don't that do. So what happened when Ben goes out? This person really has to scramble to try to survive and get everything going again. And that this is a case where you need to have a certain amount of people in the loop. You just can't. Um, and when I read stories about one person who fired 80% of their workforce to go for AI, well, maybe that works, maybe that doesn't. But to me, it seems like I have some concerns about that because I still trust in people, and I still think you need people. So with the flippant things about where people say, well, people should go and become plumbers, please stop saying that. That is just as bad as when the auto plants closed. And one economist at one local university said, "Well, I wonder how many rental properties are available to be bought up because there are many people who worked at American Motors that owned rental properties. They'll own it occupied. They weren't condos. They weren't big. They're like three apartments. So basically, in the house, they had three apartments. They lived in one of them, rented out two, or they lived in one and rented out another one. But when the Motors closed, a lot of people came and said, well, and they have, and boy, that almost caused a riot in Kenosha. And when people say, well, they could become plumbers, that's going to cause another social riot. And the thing is, they got to stop the flippant answers, and they got to stop people that and I almost used the words again. They got to stop people who only live on university campuses from making public policy. The people who make public policy are the ones that should be that live in the public and interact with the public, not those who live in public universities. Stanford does a lot of stuff, like a firing line. I saw one person who talked about AI, very knowledgeable, very everything, but I think her role should be more staying at the university because as far as public policy, I agree with what many other commentators say on YouTube that we don't want an egghead. We don't want someone that doesn't have um, life interaction and to make public policy that's just strictly basically just a professor or graduate student or something else because many people when the university is like a womb. It's a womb of ideas. You can do stuff, but as a baby, when you're born, eventually by the time you get old enough, you realize you can't live in a womb. You can't live as a walking fetus. You got to interact in a living society, in a society outside the university womb, outside of the R&D womb, outside of the D womb, development womb. And that's why we need people, when you make public policy, that live on the outside of those things, but can also interact with the different wombs, because the problem is, what happens, society is always changing, and also people need to live. Like, even this day, there are many people who have advanced degrees, but they work in different jobs which you wouldn't think about. Some work as waitresses, some work in fast food, some work, because what happens, they have a devastation of what happened with the car building. And there's a hope of bringing car building back, but it took, from the 80s all the way until last year, until people realized how much stuff was moved out. Even like in Kenosha, one person went down Kenosha and traveled to Mexico. They traveled down there, and they took a tour of one auto plant down there, and all the parts that they moved from the lakefront plant in Kenosha, they moved down to Mexico. And it's the same parts that were there since the 30s. And what happened when the person says, "Oh my God," so it wasn't because we were bad workers. It wasn't because we were too expensive. It was because basically they found someone else who'd work cheaper and under less stringent work rules. But the thing is, that's what the problem is when people make flippant remarks, because you got to realize, everyone has their own economic systems, and the own economic system is such and such. Because there's a story called The Rat Race. One person said, "Well, what about if I make an agreement with Tom? What about I make an agreement with Bob? What about I make an agreement with Paul? I make an agreement with Betty?" Not to compete. That's fine. But there's other people, basically, who are competing as well. And what happens? How are you going to do that? And that's where we have to work together in the real world with people that work in real society, not people that work, that only live on the university, that only live in research and development labs, that only live in tech worlds. We gotta have people live in the actual, and that's the difference between me. Prior to 39, I sort of was like in the tech world, development world, and other stuff. After 39, it's like Alice doesn't live there anymore. I actually understood what it was to live in a real environment. I've been homeless a few times. I was domestically abused 3 times by partners, and basically all 3 of them were friends. But thank God for women and children's license to help me get through that period. Um, but the thing is, when you talk about people in academia, okay, I almost use the words again. When you talk about people in university research and development environments, guys, you try to understand how the public really lives, but you don't. The buildathon people actually are more knowledgeable than I think than some of the other people I hear on TV. So, I mean, to Margaret Hoover, what I would say, next time you have someone talk about technology policy, why don't you talk with some of the people that participate at Buildathon, and have some people that were on the Buildathon? And also for others, watch the debate, filing line from 1996, regarding cyberspace. I'll find a link and try to put it on here, because it's very insightful. Basically, some of the questions we're going through today is what was discussed in 1996. And as always, please feel free to contact me on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Just remember, some days, my health sort of goes up and down, so it may take a while for me to respond. And sometimes the best way for me to respond is just either by Zoom or others, because my travel is rather limited, due to my budget. And also, although I have a driver's license, I don't have a car, so I rely heavily on public transportation. And there. Well, this has been Diana's Makerspace, and let me know what you think.